we're going to bring back definitive ranking because it has been a long time since the last definitive ranking that we did here on the show. The last definitive ranking that we did was back. Oh my god!
I want to say we did Tears of the Kingdom.
It was Tears of the Kingdom, yeah.
Yeah,
And that was golly, like probably last year when Tears of the Kingdom came out, like, or you know what, December the 4th. December the 4th is when it was. It's still a long time.
Mm-hmm. That's
So yeah,
at least half a year away. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited to do this episode because
yeah,
I'm kind of been the person who's like, I don't think I'll ever really play Zelda 1 again. It's not really my cup of tea.
yeah.
It's hard. And then I just out of the blue, I was just like, I want to do it. I want to replay Zelda, The Legend of Zelda. And I did. And it was so freaking fun. Like, I forgot how fun it was. And it had been like at least a decade since I played it. So I'm really excited to talk about it today. Like,
Yeah.
super excited. Weirdly, more than I like anticipated to be.
Well, the thing is like I kind of had a similar experience last year, maybe a little bit before this time, but like, so I was playing Legend of Zelda at the marathon, and so I was running through it for like God the first time, and I think I think I'd played it on NSO like when it first came out, and I was kind of like, okay, like I should do it because at the time I'm the editor in chief of the site, I'm doing the podcast. It's like I should play this game. It's been forever since I've played it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing that and playing it, and I was like, okay, this is fine, but like I don't know if I'm really dying to play it again. And so I didn't up until last year, right before the marathon. And I don't know what it was, but something just clicked. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is really fun. And maybe it was a style that we were playing it where you're trying to get the dungeons done quickly and efficiently. Certainly having Life of Luxury mode helps. And there's going to be some people out there that scoff. And it's like, this isn't the real way to experience Zelda. And to that I say, pooey. Because Life of Luxury just makes a game that much more accessible for people.
Yes, it's actually like it's like one of those things where like a lot of the older Zelda games to me personally are like difficult. Like if you're not that good at video games, they're kind of hard. Like
Yeah.
a lot of dying. If I didn't have that rewind feature, I don't think I would like
Oh,
really actually want to play.
particularly for Zelda 2, but
Yeah.
yes, definitely. Yeah, and like, so I was playing the game, and I was just like, God, this is awesome, and like I was having a really fun time. Like, granted, I was also kind of playing with Goo, so we were doing our thing and having a blast together and whatnot. But yeah, I was just like, yeah, this is a better game than I think a lot of more modern fans of Zelda give it credit for, because there is still like a lot to really enjoy about this game. And when I was doing my best Zelda ever list for this year, that game jumped up like significantly. Like I want to say it jumped up like 5-6 spots into my top 10 Zelda games, and I was just I was just like, this is really fun. It's challenging. It's the world still, I think, holds up. There's lots of mystery and mystique, even though it's like a small package. There's some funny stuff in it, like. And we'll get into all that there, but and certainly there's some things that aren't exactly great either. But of course, we're talking about an almost 40-year-old game, so yeah, we're going to do definitive ranking, and we're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk about all that, but yeah, I'm really stoked about it. It's about time that we kind of gave this game its due on our show. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I agree. And like for me personally too, gave this game its due. I've always said like I respect where it is and where the Zelda series came from, but it wasn't ever my favorite. And like I know last year on my Zelda ranking, it's like second to last. Obviously, Adventure of Link is last. And it's not because I think it's a horrible game. It's just I hadn't played it in so long, and I'm like, it's not my cup of tea. I wouldn't really pick it out of a Zelda lineup to play, But I think, like, for the Zelda ranking this year, it definitely will get a significant bump. And, yeah, I'm ready to pay it its dues, I think.
Even Triforce Heroes was above it.
Because I had fun playing that. Played that recently.
Give your head a shake.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, God. That's just... Talking about cups of tea, that's like drinking a cup of sludge.
Oh, my God.
So, for anybody that doesn't know, the way that the definitive ranking works is this, and this was established by our Missing in Action Hyrule Compendium, that actually we looked in the last definitive ranking that our pals over there did was back in well, it was back in 2020, so it's been a minute, but
Been a
this is the
minute.
criteria. There are 10 specific categories that we are going to be ranking, and we're going to be ranking them on a score of 1 to 5. 1 is bad. 5 is good. And these categories, some of them kind of bleed into each other here. So there's obviously some crossover, because I think when these categories are really rocking, you don't notice the difference between them. They all kind of like converge into the same thing. But when they're not converging, when there's no convergence, then you do notice them. So I'm going to quickly run over the list of categories here, and then we'll start talking. So number 1, arguably the most important category, certainly for Tears of the Kingdom, speaking of, is the world. Is the world awesome? Is it fun? Does it have secrets? Is it great? Do we want to go back to it? Number 2, the art style. A very uniquely Zelda category, I find. We do the definitive ranking over on Metroid as well, and like the art style is more or less the same in every single game. Whereas Zelda, I mean, that art style is different from game to game to game to game almost. The story. How's the story? Is it good? Is it fun? Is it, is it worth, is it the driver of the game? Pacing and progression. This is a sneaky one. This is one that you never notice on a good game, like Ocarina of Time. You'd never notice the pacing and progression because you're always doing something. But when you are playing Twilight Princess and you are doing that miserable opening sequence, and you're just like, it's been 6 hours, I want to leave Ordon Village. That's when you notice pacing and progression. Gameplay and combat, very self-explanatory. Is it fun? Items and abilities, again, do we like the items? Are they cool? Are they fun? Gameplay and combat. I just said gameplay and combat. Dungeons. This is a big one, of course. Like, are the dungeons awesome? Are they fun? Are they challenging? Enemies and bosses. What do those look like? How many different unique enemies do we have? Do we have some incredible boss fights? Side content and extras. Again, pretty self-explanatory. And then music and sound. And that is the whole pieces of the pie that make up the definitive ranking. And then we have one final score based on everything that we said. So that's what we got going on today. And those are the rules of engagement. So without any further ado, Al, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. As you went through the list, like I do have some where I'm like, okay, this will be a high ranking for me, but I think some I'm a little worried because it's kind of a game of its time too. So I want to be
Yeah.
like fair. So
Yeah.
I guess we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens, and I'm gonna try and keep score here on my phone here. So let's get to it. Well, let's start off with the world, and I feel, you know what? Damn it! I feel like I'm gonna give it a 5. I really do.
Okay.
Well,
I'm like, what?
here's the thing. Like, obviously, yes, the world is tiny. It's a tiny world, but we're talking about a 40-year-old game. And so I'm just kind of looking at the world in the context of like, okay, like it's kind of got a bit of everything. There's like a really cool, there's like the cool graveyard section where there's all these ghosts. There's your classic kind of like forest area in the middle. There's it's like the prototype Lake Hylia with like the 2 little islands. There's like a beach on the side. There's the top and the mountains with Death Mountain. There's all these like little secrets packed into the world. There's, I feel like for a small world, it packs itself with just charm and personality. And I know maybe a 5 is a little bit generous, but I just feel like there's a lot of really cool stuff going on here, and like, there's something to the world too, where you really have no direction. You're not given a lot of clues where to go, and you're going to be traversing the world a lot for sure, back and forth, and maybe that can get frustrating. But the world is also small enough where like it doesn't really take you that terribly long to get from the top to the bottom, and there and back again. I really like that we have kind of the prototype Lost Woods here, with like that one area in the top mountains where you got to navigate the screens properly. It's just like there's a lot of cool stuff in the world, a lot of personality, lots of like little hidden grottos and shops and stuff like that you can go and access. I don't know. Maybe I'm just charmed, but I'm gonna give it a 5. I'm gonna give it a 5. What say
I'm
you?
I'm kind of torn between like a 2 and a 3, to be honest.
Oh,
I think like I get what you're saying about the world. It is small, it's compact. You'll kind of get places pretty quickly. But here's the thing, like if you really struggle with like um if you really struggle because you're not very good at games, you're gonna die a lot in this overworld, and then you probably traverse the same like 10 screens over and over and over and over. Whereas every other screen that you're in, like say you're trying to get over to the graveyard, you're literally only gonna be there like probably once. You know? Like if you kind of know what you're doing, you're only gonna be there once.
okay.
And then you die, and then you get sent back to the first screen, and again, you're gonna go through the same like 5, 10 screens over and over and over again. So I find that very frustrating. Um, I also find it frustrating, like the lack of direction, like you said, where some dungeons are literally like hidden under like a pond, under a bush. Like I don't know these things, or like you're talking about what the like lost part on the mountain. I don't. How am I supposed to know that I'm supposed to go up 4 times in a row to find the dungeon? You know, like if I'm looking at the map trying not to use a guide, I see that the dungeon is up there, but when I go up I get put on the same screen. So I find that really frustrating because there's like a lack of direction. I don't know if there's a clue in the game. I didn't personally find one that said, hey, go up 4 times. I know that the game does give you some clues like
Hmm. Random old
spectral rock
people.
is
Yeah.
key and stuff like that. So I find the overworld, like, even though it has some great elements to it, I do find it very frustrating to traverse. So I think with all that being said, I'm gonna give it a 2.
Allow me to put my boomer hat on for a second here, Al. Back in my day, okay, back in my day, you had to buy a strategy guide, and that would give you some indication of what to do. Or a lot of times there was information in the manual as well about like
Hmm.
kind of like what we saw with Tunic, like little tips, tricks, and what have you. And frankly, like. And again, this isn't to make excuses. This is just a fact. Like we're talking about an almost 40-year-old game, and so that
Yeah.
means that there's a lot of trial and error like this to kind of artificially extend the length of these games because this game was a full price retail game back then, and so you and I mean we can beat it in an hour, but back then that is not the case, and people our age were playing this game back in '86, so I kind of like I do see what you're saying. I guess I just give it a little bit more leeway and a little bit more grace, and then I'll also just say that I rank it based on my experience playing it. And most of my experiences lately have been with Life of Luxury, so I have a lot of hearts. But also like I've just gotten a little bit better at the game too because I've played it pretty consistently in the last couple of years here. So
Hmm.
like I get it. I don't agree with that, but I get it. Like I just feel like I mean listen, like if you're playing I don't know what's a hard game. Like if you're playing Elden Ring and you die and you die and you die and you die and maybe you don't restart from the same point on the map, but you still like yeah, that's frustrating. Like it definitely
I
is,
mean, I
but
gave up Elden Ring for that reason. So
yeah, not a great comparison, but like I'm just saying like I don't think it's a fault of the world that if you die, you're just like ah. Damn it! I gotta look at the same pile of rocks and shrub again. So that's my personal 2 cents to take for and do with what you will.
hmm
Okay.
I will say that you're right about like all the little secret grottos and stuff. Like once you kind of figure out that there are secrets, but even still, sometimes you're like, oh, I gotta burn a bush. Which bush am I burning? You have to burn all the
Yeah.
bushes until you figure it out. So I guess I just wish that there was a little bit more direction. Like the world is cool, but it's hard for me to traverse it and explore it because of the difficulty and
I think
lack
that's
of
fair.
information.
I think that's fair. I think you got to look at it as a product of its time. Like that just it wasn't done. And if it was done, then there was like a peripheral material that helped you out with that.
Hmm.
So just take that for what it's will. Okay, so Al and I are already off to a hot start here. We're disagreeing already. Let's see if we can agree on the art style here, Al. And I'm going to put you on the spot, make you go first. What do you
Okay.
think?
I think again, if we're considering of the time, I actually think it's really good. I'm gonna give it a 4. I think like all the sprites are like pretty amazing looking. There's clearly like I'm trying to think of all the little enemies and stuff. So you got like the old man and the old woman. You got Link. You've got these really cool kind of rendered bosses, these little bit bosses
Yeah.
that I think look awesome. And you got like Lionels, and then you got these guys that throw boomerangs and the Octoroks and the Zoras. And I think like when an item drops like a bomb, you can clearly tell what it is. I think that I think that like the dungeon map designs are really cool.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
how they're named, and we'll talk about that when we get to dungeons, but I think that correlates to art style a little bit. Um yeah, I think like it has like a lot going for it for what technology was like able to do at the time. So I'm going to give it a 4.
I'm actually going to give it a 5 for everything that you said. But one thing that I don't know if you're considering, and maybe this is cheating, but man, I love the artwork on like the manual and stuff like that of like small
Mhm.
little scrunched up Link. He looks like this little hobbit, and he looks so incredible. I'm looking at his little pictures right now. And there's also like a bunch of enemies that are also drawn there. I mean, obviously there's Zelda, but you've got like Gibdos and Goma and Dark Nuts and stuff. It looks so fantastic. These little guys here, they just look, oh, they look so good. But in game as well, like I really do appreciate it. We'll talk about this more when we get to enemy variety, but like I really think that the enemies in this game look spectacular. Like the artwork looks spectacular. I think Link sprite, very easy to take for granted, but that looks spectacular. Again, like I think that the world just it's simple, but it feels alive, and I think that's a product of the art direction. There's very distinct areas, like I said, the graveyard, the beach, the forest, the mountains, like, and I think that's a product of the artwork, of the art style here. Yeah, I know it's pretty simple. It's an NES game, 1986, but I just like I think everything looks really great, and what pushes it over the top for me is the official artwork, because that stuff just looks super adorable. Little
Yeah.
scrunchy, small little Link.
I do like the official artwork too. I guess I'm not really taking that into consideration because like I didn't get that experience with the handbook, you know.
Hmm.
I got only the experience with the game, so that's kind of what the experience I'm taking from.
Yeah, that's fair. Great sprites for like the old man too, and that one moblin that's like, I'm hungry. Like
Yeah.
those are good
He's like
stuff.
Grumble Girl.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
and
it's cute.
and a fantastic title screen, by the way, too. That title
Mhm.
screen is awesome. Like, it just
Pretty cool.
looks wicked. Okay, next category that we have. So Al's got I've got 2 5s in a row here. This is unbelievable. But that train is going to stop because we are going to the story next. What do you think is a fair score for the story? Because I mean, like, on one hand, the story more or less sets up a vast portion of what we know for the Zelda series. Not all of it, because Zelda
Mhm.
2 and particularly Link to the Past and even Ocarina of Time certainly kind of laid the more steady groundwork, framework for the series going forward. But yeah, I mean, without Zelda 1, obviously those games wouldn't have ever existed. That being said, and again, to be fair as well, there is story in the manual. You kind of learn about Princess Zelda's plight and Ganon kidnapping her, but I mean, other than that, there really is no story, right? Like, it's just you got to go rescue the princess.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think is a fair score?
Yeah, that's the problem is trying to be fair because again, it's a product of its time and I, I'm trying to remember because I played this 3 months ago and I did kind of pay more attention to things than I did last night when I replayed for this episode.
Yeah,
Obviously like the initial title screen gives you like kind of that little roll up of something, just a little
yeah,
tidbit of story, little very minor, kind of Star Wars like in a way, but like you barely learn anything and then you're plopped into the world. You can talk to this old man and he says like 2 sentences to you and then like you find him and the old woman around too and they also just say like 1 or 2 sentences, but they're mostly hints. They're not like story elements.
yeah,
So there's like really not a lot of story, but you kind of know the story. And I don't know if that's just because retroactively we know the story, not because they actually tell you the story in like full detail, aside from more information in the manual, which again, I didn't get that experience. So I
yeah.
think, I really don't want to give it a
I
1.
think a fair score is a
I
2.
think it's 2. Yeah, just to be
Yeah,
fair.
I'm gonna give it a
Okay.
2, and I'll say this as well. Like, I think there are other NES games that have the same set of limitations, they're the same product of its time, but I think that there are other NES games that have better stories. Like I look at Metal Gear, for example. I would look even at like Mega Man. Like that's a pretty easy story, like Dr. Wily created Mega Man, and
I played Mega Man.
I mean, it's just like he created him. He's an evil scientist, and now Mega Man is going to fight all his robots and take their power. Like it's simple, but it works. Like even I would say Metroid is maybe a better story as well. Like again, very simple. Like you have to exterminate the Metroids. They're space pirates. Here it's just kind of like Ganon has kidnapped Princess Zelda. Go rescue her. Like, oh, by the way, collect the Triforce.
And the Triforce shards, and go rescue her. I went to our Zelda dungeon like page layout for the story of the Legend of Zelda, and like it's small, but there's actually like quite a few paragraphs here for how small it is. So I'm like, oh, like there's probably stuff that I missed, but maybe also this is coming from the guide, the manual.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Again, I think a 2 is a fair score. Obviously, story, I don't think anybody would say is the highlight of this game, and nor should it be. I mean, it's an NES game. We're here for the gameplay, as we'll get to in a second. Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this clip and want to see more of the Zelda Cast, make sure to head over to your favorite podcast platform of choice and subscribe. There are over 200 episodes in the vault that will provide you with hundreds of hours of Zelda content for you to enjoy. You can listen to us when you're on a walk, fighting Ganon, trying to sleep, whatever. And if you want to see these shows as they happen, make sure to head over to twitch.tv/the Zelda Cast, where you can watch our beautiful faces talk about Zelda every single week. Don't miss out, and we'll see you next time.